She looked me straight in the eyes with that distant, almost guilty look. "I'm having doubts about us, maybe we should take a break," she whispered. It was 3 days before Valentine's Day. 3 days before the dinner I'd planned for weeks. 3 days before I was going to give her something special I'd been saving up for. At that moment, it felt like my heart just dropped to the floor. But I didn't want her to see that. I took a deep breath, forced a calm smile, and said, "Take all the time you need." I don't think she expected that. I think she expected me to beg her, to chase after her, to ask what I did wrong, or how I could fix it. But I didn't. I just stood up, grabbed my keys, and left her sitting there. I went home, blocked her on everything, and stared at the ceiling in silence for hours. My chest felt heavy, like I was carrying something I didn't ask for. I kept thinking, was I really that easy to let go of? Did I mean so little to her that she could just walk away days before Valentine's without thinking twice? But then, something clicked in my mind. I realized that the dinner reservation I made was still there. I remembered how my mom hadn't gone out to eat in months, always cooking for me, always alone since Dad passed away. So I called her. "Mom," I said, trying not to let my voice shake. "Do you want to go out for dinner with me this Friday?" She sounded surprised, almost emotional, but she quickly said yes. And that night, instead of crying alone in my room, I dressed up, picked up my mom, and took her to the nicest dinner she'd had in years. We laughed, we talked about old memories, and I realized that no woman in this world would ever love me as deeply as she does. I took a photo of her smiling, holding her drink with that little umbrella in it, and posted it with the caption, "Best date I've ever had." That was it. No tags, no explanation. Just that. That night, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. 32 messages. All from her. Some angry, some desperate, some just saying, "Please answer me." But I didn't. I turned off my phone, tucked my mom into bed when we got home, and for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. But what she did next, I never saw coming. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No buzzing notifications because I still had my phone off. For the first time in a long while, I felt calm. I made breakfast for my mom, watched her smile as she sipped her tea, and felt this quiet peace in my chest. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. I knew her messages weren't the end of it. After dropping my mom at her friend's house later that afternoon, I turned my phone back on. Within seconds, the screen lit up with message after message. The last one she sent just said, "I'm coming over." My stomach twisted, but I ignored it. I started cleaning up the living room, trying to keep myself busy. Every memory of her started flashing back. Our first date, when we sat in her car for hours just talking, how she used to rest her head on my chest when she was tired, how I genuinely thought she was the one. But now I felt like I was looking at an old photo of someone I no longer knew. An hour later, there was a knock at the door. I didn't answer. I just stood there, listening to her knock again and again. "Please open the door," she said, her voice shaking. "Please." I just want to talk. But I couldn't. I knew if I opened it, I'd fall apart. So, I waited until she stopped knocking, and after a while, I heard her car drive off. That evening, my best friend called. He'd seen my post with my mom. He asked if I was okay, and I told him everything. He went silent for a moment and then said, "Bro, she was out with that guy again last week, right?" My heart sank deeper than I thought it could. I felt like I was drowning in a cold sea. "What guy?" I asked, my voice almost breaking. "That coworker she always says is just a friend," he replied quietly. I didn't know what to say. Everything started making sense, the late replies, the sudden mood swings, the random arguments. It was like someone turned on a light in a dark room and I could see all the mess scattered around me. I ended the call and just sat there, staring at nothing. But then, another message popped up on my phone. It was from her. Just 3 words. "I need you." My chest tightened again, anger mixing with the pain, because she was the one who needed space. She was the one who walked away. And now, suddenly, she needed me? That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. But what she did the next day was something I never imagined she was capable of. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing again. I didn't even want to check it, but curiosity got the better of me. This time, it wasn't just her. Her best friend had messaged me too. "Hey, I know you're hurt, but please hear her out," she wrote. I stared at the screen, feeling that familiar mix of anger and confusion. Hear her out? About what? That she walked away days before Valentine's Day? That she might have been seeing someone else behind my back? What exactly did they want me to hear? I ignored the message and went about my day. I tried focusing on work, but my mind kept wandering back to her. I remembered how she always used to get anxious before big events or milestones in our relationship. When we first talked about moving in together, she went silent for 2 days before finally agreeing. When I first brought up marriage, she cried because she was scared of change. I kept thinking, was this just another moment of her fear? Or was I just too blind to see her true intentions all along? Later that afternoon, I went to the gym to clear my head. As I was leaving, I saw her car parked outside my apartment building. My heart dropped. I didn't want to see her, not like this, but there she was, sitting in the driver's seat, wiping tears from her eyes. I walked past quickly, hoping she wouldn't see me, but she jumped out and called my name. "Please, can we talk?" she begged, her voice cracking. She looked like she hadn't slept all night. Her hair was messy, her eyes puffy. For a split second, I felt bad. But then I remembered what my friend told me about her coworker. That pain shot through my chest again. I clenched my jaw and said, "There's nothing to talk about." But she grabbed my arm, tears streaming down her face. "It's not what you think," she whispered desperately. Before I could answer, her phone rang. I glanced down and saw his name flash across the screen. My stomach turned. She quickly pulled her hand away and silenced the call, but it was too late. The truth was right there. I can explain," she stammered, but I shook my head and walked away, leaving her standing there crying in the parking lot. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Her words kept ringing in my ears. "It's not what you think." But what else could it be? I wanted to forget her, to erase everything, but deep inside, I still wanted answers. And what I found out the next day changed everything I thought I knew about her. The next morning, I woke up with this heavy feeling in my chest, like a rock was sitting there refusing to move. I didn't want to think about her anymore, but her words kept replaying in my mind. "It's not what you think." I tried distracting myself, scrolling through my phone, but there it was, another message from her. "Please, meet me today. Just one last time," she wrote. I didn't reply. I didn't want to see her, but something inside me needed to hear her say the truth to my face. Around noon, my best friend called again. "Bro, she's been calling me too, crying nonstop," he said. I stayed silent, staring at the wall. "You know," he continued quietly, "she told my girlfriend that she's been feeling lost lately, that she didn't cheat but she was thinking about it because she felt you were drifting away." My throat went dry. Thinking about it? I didn't even know what that meant. Was I supposed to feel relieved that she almost cheated instead of actually doing it? Later that evening, I decided to meet her. I texted her to come over. My hands were shaking as I typed, and my heart was racing the entire time I waited. When she finally arrived, she looked so tired, her face pale, eyes red and swollen. She walked in slowly, holding a small bag in her hand. "What's that?" I asked, my voice cold. She didn't answer immediately. She sat down on the couch, staring at the floor before whispering, "It's your Valentine's gift. I was going to give it to you before I ruined everything." I didn't move. I just watched her, feeling this storm brewing inside me. She opened the bag and pulled out a small black box. Inside was a silver bracelet with my initials engraved on it. My chest tightened even more. I didn't want to feel anything, but I did. Tears filled her eyes as she said, I was scared of how real everything was getting. I felt like I wasn't enough for you, and I thought if I left first, it wouldn't hurt as much if you left me later. I clenched my fists, trying to process her words. And him? I asked quietly. Her tears spilled down her cheeks. He's just a friend. He was helping me plan your surprise. He even paid part of it because I didn't have enough money. That's why he kept calling. He wanted to check if you liked it. My mind was spinning. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Everything felt like it was crashing down around me, and her next words were about to change everything I thought I knew about love and betrayal. I sat there staring at her, my mind numb. Part of me wanted to believe her, to believe that everything was just one big misunderstanding. But something didn't feel right. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the way her hands kept trembling as she clutched the bracelet box. She wiped her tears and took a deep breath. There's something else I need to tell you, she whispered, her voice so quiet I almost didn't hear her. My chest tightened as I waited. She looked up at me, her lips shaking. I found out I'm pregnant, she said, her tears falling harder now. For a second, everything went silent around me. I couldn't even hear the cars outside or the ticking clock on the wall. Pregnant? My head was spinning. I felt like the room was tilting under my feet. I swallowed hard and asked, Is it mine? The question slipped out before I could stop myself. She let out a painful sob, covering her face with her hands. Of course it's yours, she cried out. I only ever loved you. I was just so scared. I couldn't breathe properly. My heart was pounding in my chest so loudly I was sure she could hear it. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I asked, my voice breaking despite how hard I tried to stay calm. She shook her head, wiping her face roughly. I found out the day before I asked for a break. I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe you'd feel trapped, or that you'd stay with me only because of the baby. I didn't want that. I stood up and walked away from her, running my hands through my hair, trying to think. Everything was happening so fast. Her doubts, the breakup, the dinner with my mom, the coworker, and now this. My brain felt like it was on fire, burning with too many thoughts all at once. I turned back to look at her, and that's when she said something that made my knees feel weak. He knows too, she whispered. Your coworker friend, the one who told you about me. I told him before I told you. I was so confused, and he was the only one I could talk to. My mouth went dry. I felt like the ground had disappeared under me. Why him? Why tell him before me? My stomach twisted with something darker than pain, betrayal, confusion, rage. She sat there crying, saying my name over and over again, but I couldn't hear her properly. All I could think was, what else were they keeping from me? And in that moment I knew the truth was so much deeper and darker than I ever imagined. I stood there staring at her, my chest rising and falling so fast I thought I might pass out. The room felt too small, like the walls were closing in. You told him before me? I asked, my voice shaking. She nodded, tears dripping onto her hands as she whispered. I didn't know what to do. I panicked. He was just there, and you were so busy with work that week. My hands balled into fists. Busy with work? I was working overtime to save for our future, to buy her a ring she truly deserved, to take her on a honeymoon she would never forget. And all that time, she was confiding in another man about carrying my child. I turned away from her, feeling my vision blur with tears I didn't want to let out. Did anything happen between you two? I asked, my voice so low I wasn't sure she even heard me. She sobbed harder, shaking her head. No. I swear. I just needed someone to listen. I closed my eyes, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. But then she said something that made my entire body go numb. He told me not to tell you. He said you'd leave me if I did. My eyes snapped open. What? I whispered, my voice trembling with disbelief. Why would he say that? She looked up at me with those broken eyes and whispered. Because he told me he loves me. He said if you left me, he would take care of me and the baby. It felt like all the blood drained from my body. That coworker I trusted, the one who warned me about her, the one I thought was looking out for me, he was the one trying to take her away. My knees felt weak as I sat down, my mind spinning with every conversation I'd ever had with him. All his warnings about her, all his casual comments about how she wasn't good enough for me, all his advice to focus on work instead. He was playing both sides from the start. She kept crying, whispering apologies over and over again, but I couldn't hear her anymore. My mind was too loud, filled with anger, betrayal, and disbelief. For a moment I thought about how everything could have been different if she just came to me first. But now it was too late. I stood up and walked to the door, turning back to look at her one last time. I hope he keeps his promises to you, I said quietly. As I stepped outside into the cold night air, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I opened it and froze. It was a photo of her and him, but what I saw in that photo changed everything I thought I knew about their story, and about mine. I stared at that photo for what felt like forever. It was her and him sitting at a cafe, but what caught my eye wasn't their faces. It was his hand resting on hers across the table, and the way she was looking at him. She looked happy. Not like someone who was just confiding in a friend. Not like someone who was lost and scared. But like someone who felt safe. Loved. My chest felt heavy, but this time it wasn't anger. It was this deep, aching sadness. I realized then that no matter what excuses she gave, no matter what tears she cried, her heart was never really with me in the end. Maybe she did love me once. Maybe she meant everything she said to me once. But somewhere along the way, she found something in him that she no longer felt with me. And even if nothing physical ever happened, emotional betrayal cuts deeper than anything else. That night, I packed up all her things and left them outside her apartment. I didn't call her. I didn't wait for her to explain more. I blocked her number and his too. I knew if I let them talk to me, I'd just keep going in circles, hoping for a truth that would hurt less. But the truth is never easy. It's just real. A week later, I took my mom out for dinner again. She held my hand across the table and asked, "Are you okay now?" I smiled at her, feeling my chest lighten a little. "Yeah, Mom," I said softly. "I think I will be. Sometimes life has a way of tearing you apart so it can rebuild you stronger. Sometimes the people we think we need the most are the very ones holding us back from the peace we deserve. And sometimes, the real love stories aren't about romantic dinners or engraved bracelets. They're about the quiet moments, like sitting across from your mother, knowing she raised you to walk away from anyone who makes you feel unworthy. As I left the restaurant that night, I looked up at the sky and felt the cool breeze on my face. For the first time in a long while, I felt free. Free from lies. Free from betrayal. Free to start over, without doubts or hidden secrets. And I realized, that was the best Valentine's gift I could ever give myself.